Hello, everyone. Welcome back to a Purpose and Pixie Dust podcast live interview with a special guest. We have Tammie Jones on today, who is a Pinterest expert, and she's just going to share all the things with us. So, Tammie, first of all, thank you so much for being on the show, and tell us a little bit about you, how you got to where you are now with the Pin Guild.
Gotcha. Well, thank you for inviting me to come on. I absolutely love, visiting with you and sharing knowledge for other people to learn how to use Pinterest. What got me to where I am is kind of the same story that everyone else has. We want to be in control of our time and our money and all the things. So I went out on my own in 2017, which sounds crazy now to think about. It's been a little while. There's been a few different iterations of my offerings and services, but it's always been around Pinterest and just my love for Pinterest and how it is so different from, traditional social media. So, being able to get the longer term results and not having to be on there absolutely every single day.
Yeah, that's like the dream. So how did you find Pinterest and how did you decide like, okay, I can actually make a business out of this?
Actually, I had been on Pinterest personally since you had to have an invite. So you couldn't get on there without someone telling you, hey, about this new thing, and then sending you an email and getting an invite to it.
I forgot about that completely, by the way, until you just said it. Like, oh my gosh, I remember that, begging like people for an invite.
Yeah, in like 2010. So it's been a little while. They've grown a lot since then. But yeah, so I got really into it personally. If you could see behind the scenes of my Pinterest account, I don't even know, but well over 200 boards of my own. Now, all of that is not visible, and I'll tell you why all of that is not visible, but the hundreds of thousands of pins that I've saved and just created and different things. So, wanting to go out on my own and start a business and seeing a lot of marketing being done on the platform that I hadn't really seen before. You always knew that it was for, bloggers and beauty and those kind of things, but then started seeing different things actually when you click them would actually go to sign up for like services. So I started digging into that and seeing, if there was anyone out there who taught how to do it. And I found a few different people and took a couple different courses and just kind of ventured out on my own and built from there.
I love that. I love that. And how has it evolved? Did you work with one-on-one clients at first? Like, what has that looked like with your business?
Yeah, initially was definitely one-on-one clients because that was really where it started out at that time. There was no paid ads, no anything like that. So it was all organic. So finding people who knew that they could use Pinterest and helping them do it, or taking over accounts where the people had just grown too big to be able to actually just manage it on their own. So that is definitely where it started. From there, it has evolved into like group settings, one-off trainings, VIP days, graphics creation, one-off strategies. So just all kinds of different things that I have offered over the years, depending on what is really needed at the time and what everyone is asking for. Because as we know in our businesses, if we don't evolve to what the clientele is needing, we're probably going to go out of business. So, just making sure that you're able to offer that and staying up to date on the trainings and what's changing and, and just conveying all of that to everyone so that they can stay current.
Right. That makes so much sense. And I feel like Pinterest is one of those ones that has changed a lot since the last time we talked, which I was trying to remember. I think that's been almost 2 years ago, if not 2 years ago, like a year and a half.
Yeah,
it's been a
little bit.
Yeah. Before we talk about updates and what Pinterest looks like now, you mentioned advertising. Is Pinterest still very much one where you can get nice organic traffic, or is it like Facebook with their business pages where it's like, if you're not paying to play, you're not really getting seen?
You still can absolutely get traction with organic. It does still take time. So if you have the ability to run even small ads, it's obviously going to boost your account because you're paying, but you don't have to. The same as before, you had to absolutely be doing organic and paid ads. For the paid ads to get traction, now they've really streamlined that process more, and now you can even do. I have a few people that are doing just ads, and they're not doing the organic side. The drawback to that is the minute you stop doing the ads, everything starts to fall off because you haven't been consistent with your organic strategy as well. But
Okay, that makes sense.
but
So
yes,
the ad strategy is a different strategy than an organic one?
the ad strategy is different in the fact that you are paying them to show what you're telling them to show. You're organic, you're having to make sure that you're staying on trend as far as what's popular at the time, what people are searching for. So if you haven't had your account up and running for very long, you're going to be harder to rank for those particular things over someone who has been on the platform longer. Whereas with the ads, you're paying. So you're going to get ranked. You're going to get shown under the places where you've told them and where your audiences have shown them that they are interested in what you have to offer for them.
Okay, that makes sense. So if someone's listening to this and they're like, okay, ads are out of my budget for right now, which I know we have a lot of beginning entrepreneurs who listen to this podcast. What are some tips you have for like currently? And this is, guys, we're recording this in November 2022. I had to look at the calendar on my on my computer to remember what month it was because we just went over. So as of November 2022, current time, what are some of your strategies to get seen organically on Pinterest?
The first and most important really is making sure that you have your account set up properly and having that base down. So I love houses and design and things like that. So generally I go to like a house reference. So think of the account and your boards and your description of your account as being your foundation. So if you don't have that foundation set properly, it's going to be really hard for Pinterest to know how to rank you and who to show you to. So that's the first thing. The next thing is going to be always give a platform what it's asking for and what it's favoring at the time. Right now, and it has been for consistently for the last year and a half, is idea pins. That's what they're wanting. The next most important thing is going to be, doing some video and testing it out and seeing what works for you and what does, not all accounts perform the same. And then just being consistent in whatever your strategy is going to be. So being consistently doing the same number of idea pins per week. If that's only one, only do one, but consistently do that. If you can only do one static pin a day, then do that every single day. Ideally, you would want to do a little more, and over time you can build that up. But to get started, just making sure that you have those base things and are being consistent and making sure that you are using things that people are searching for. So depending on what your niche is, making sure that those keywords, because Pinterest is SEO driven. So think of it like visual Google. When you go and search for something, what are they searching for? So take like your podcast, for instance. We can easily just create the title and say that it's you and I talking and what we're going to talk about. But also think about, to make more pins, what are some of the things that we talk about? What are some things that someone's going to be on Pinterest searching for that we can make a pin out of that's going to then lead to that? So then that's going to stretch your one piece of content that much further. Same principle with an idea pin. If there are different key points that we're touching on, each one of those slides on that idea pin could be one of those different points to create that. The next thing would be cutting little snippets of video. So you can actually take one piece of content and really spread it out to get a whole lot out of it to help you be consistent on the platform. And at the same time, we're giving it everything it's asking for. Yeah. We're giving it idea pins, we're giving it video, and we're giving it a bunch of static pins that are maybe lead to the same URL, but are different.
Okay, so when you're talking video pins, are those static pins, idea pins, or both?
The video pins can be like just little clips of us talking, or another way could be just, they're considered video pins, but they're animated. So like you have a little animated arrow or a little flashing sign or something like that. Those are still also considered video.
Okay.
Those,
I'm sorry.
I was going to say those won't perform as well as, you talking or it being an actual video of something. So like something with movement in the background. So if you're doing a quote, maybe having like water in the background moving or something like that. That's
Yeah.
how you rank better.
Yeah, yeah, I always kind of wondered what those were for.
That's exactly what those are for. To give that moving element in your graphics. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, so for the complete novice, what is the difference between the idea pin and the static pin?
The idea pin, think of as a carousel, like on Instagram or on Facebook. So it's multiple slides, basically, that someone can slide through and see different things on. At the end of an idea pin, it always comes up and shows your profile and allows them to follow you. And they're not linkable in the way that a static pin has a URL attached to it. Now, if you have your website claimed, which you should have, highly recommend that. If you have that claimed and you have like products or different things, you can actually tag those products in an idea pin so that the person can tap on that and then go to that. So while it's not technically a URL, you still can do that, but you do have to have that one piece done. Whereas the static pin or the regular pin, when you're filling out the description for it and you're putting the title and all that, you actually put that URL so that someone, when they tap on it, it will actually click over to your website or to your YouTube channel or wherever you're leading them to your products.
Sorry, my dog is barking because my sister just went in, so I'm like trying to keep my microphone muted for as long as possible.
So just a warning, mine are being good right now, but I'm sure we will have the same issue.
Yeah. I'm like, man.
I use the food bowls because I'm in the kitchen where the lighting's a lot brighter and better because it's been dreary outside, and so I picked those up so they weren't clanging them around the floor.
Same thing here. Right before we got started, all the joys of being a dog mom. Now, do idea pins last, or do they disappear like stories do on our other platforms?
They're on there forever, just like everything else. So people can save them to their boards, and they can go back to them later, so they do not disappear.
That's awesome. I love that.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's like the one downfall of stories. You're like, oh my gosh, I just made these really great stories, and then they're gone unless you put them in like a highlight.
Yeah, I was gonna say unless you put them in a highlight, but
Right.
yeah, no, they stay forever. So when you go to someone's account, you'll be able to see them.
Perfect.
Mm-hmm.
So let's go back to when you were talking about having your profile set up to be like optimized, and you mentioned that you had a lot of boards, but a lot of people couldn't see them. What is the purpose of that? How do you pick and choose which ones you make visible?
The way that you do that is you make the board secret, so that you can still use the account in the native way that you did before. So if it was your personal account and now you're going to start using it as business, just go into that board and then turn it to where it's a secret board so that anyone who lands on your profile can't see those, but you can. The way that you decide what you're going to leave on and what you're not is if it has to do with your business, you absolutely want it visible. If it has nothing to do with your business, you want to make those secret, because it's going to, if someone lands there and you talk a lot about, how to start a podcast, and yet they see a ton of, recipes and, different things like that really have nothing to do with starting a podcast, they're most likely not going to follow you and stick with following the account because they didn't see what they went there to see. So think of it as your storefront. When I go into Lowe's, I don't expect to see groceries. So
yeah, total sense. I'm like, okay, so I need to make my hair board private. Hairstyles.
yeah. Now,
And
another option is have a personal account and have a business account. But at the same time, how many of us really want to deal with multiple accounts? You typically don't want to. So that's
it's
just
easy.
the solution.
Yeah, to make them secret, super easy.
Mm-hmm.
Now, is there anything that we should do around setting up our boards? Like, does the name matter? Description, any of that?
Absolutely, every bit of it matters. So you want to do some keyword research. So you want to get on Pinterest itself. You don't want to go to anywhere else. You want to do it in Pinterest itself and kind of search for some different things, that you offer, and see what keywords are coming up. Just like Google, when you type in the search bar, if you've been on Pinterest lately, you're going to see suggested things that other people are searching for. You're going to want to make a note of that. So start a Google Sheet, start a document, something, and keep track of those. And then create your boards around those keywords that people are searching for. And then in your description, you want to go in a little deeper and let people know exactly what that board is going to tell them. Now, this, I say people, but really you're feeding the algorithm more than anything. You're telling the algorithm what your board is going to be about. So if there are multiple things you're going to share, let's just go back to the podcast. You know, how to get started with a podcast, what type of equipment you're going to need, you know, anything like that that you're going to talk about within that board and share pins to, that's what your description should say. And then you could always have a call to action as well, not only in your board descriptions, but also on your pins. You always want to have some type of a call to action.
Right. I put it in my pins. I never thought about that with boards though.
Yeah. Because if maybe there's another board that is going to give them more relevant information on something, you want them to check out that board. You say, hey, check out this board for more on XYZ. And then that's going to keep them on your profile and keep them consuming your content longer. If it's about like products and things like that, they could buy to get started. You know, maybe you have a shop on your website, you know, so you're going to say, hey, to see these or other items like it, go to, and then you could tell them where to go to find that information.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. Now, as we've been talking, I've definitely realized my podcast Pinterest strategy is not on point. So I'm just going to use myself as an example. Sticking with the podcast, I, on my business Pinterest, have just one board for my podcast, and I put every episode and a video clip and everything about all my episodes in that one board. I'm assuming I should probably also be making pins and putting them in my other business related boards when they
Absolutely
do with that topic, right?
Absolutely. But you said the key word too, on topic.
Yeah.
You want to make sure that wherever you're sharing it first has the most relevance to the topic that that pin has.
Gotcha.
Because Pinterest is going to take a look at the picture on the pin first, the title of the pin, the description of the pin, and also the website or the link that it goes to make sure that that is a good pin.
Okay.
They pay attention to all of that.
Okay. Now, if we use like a template, because you know there's all the templates that are on Canva, is it better to like reuse the same one so everything kind of looks uniform, or should we be mixing up what our picture looks like when we're making our pins?
Templates are great in the fact that they help you do something very fast, but you do absolutely want to be changing them up at times, depending on what it is. So if you have multiple different templates for your podcast episodes, you know, you could use each one of those and change the title of it.
Yeah.
And then maybe change the coloring of it, you know, just little variations just to make it new so that that people can tell it's your brand, but not that it's all exactly the same. And then the same thing with other types, you know, and switching up your templates every once in a while, you know, giving it just a refresh. So maybe starting with a whole new set once a quarter or something, just a little variation. Moving pictures around a lot of times even can give you multiple pins. So you could maybe use one particular picture, but maybe you zoom in one, or maybe you put it in a little box in one. So, you know, just kind of those little variations. But it's too hard to create a lot of pins if you're not using templates. It's just too hard to do that. Unless you're someone who takes a whole lot of photos all the time, or doesn't mind spending hours creating that stuff. So templates are a huge thing for sure. I will tell you, and this kind of cuts myself also for my own templates and, you know, making money off of them. But Tailwind has a create feature, which is really awesome. And you can go into that create feature and you can fill in like just the pertinent information of like what you want the text overlay to be and where you want it to land and all of that stuff. And it creates like 1,000 pins all at once.
What? My mind is blown. That must be, well, disclaimer, I haven't used Tailwind in a few years, but that was not around when I was there before. So,
Yeah.
tell us what Tailwind is and who would want to use it.
Yeah. Well, other than just for the the graphic side of it, um, it is a scheduler that is approved for Pinterest. Now, there are others. This is just the main one that I typically use and recommend people to use. It's by no means the only one. And you can absolutely pin directly on Pinterest. And I will tell you one of the drawbacks to that I find. But it allows you to schedule out for months at a time, like literally months at a time. You could go in there and upload everything and just schedule it all out. The other thing that you can do within Tailwind that you cannot do on Pinterest is you could actually schedule something to go to more than one board. However, you want to be careful with that because Pinterest wants new stuff. They don't want the same stuff reshared. So while sometimes it is very relevant to do that, make sure that you put at minimum 7 days in between sharing something. And typically I like to say even longer, like 3 weeks to 4 weeks in between sharing it to another board. But that will help you fill up your scheduler faster.
So, if I'm resharing, is it resharing like the exact same pin you wait that long? Or, so like,
Mhm.
for example, with my podcast episodes, I link them all back to my website. So it's like the same URL. So is that bad if I'm sharing the same URL but different everything else every week? Or should that be okay?
That's okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Now with those, I don't schedule everything for the exact same day. I will
Right.
schedule like a day in between or something.
Yeah.
I throw a bunch on there all at one time and then call it good. But you can even do that within Pinterest. Um,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. Is Tailwind still free for a certain number and then it's paid after?
It's actually free for a certain number per month now.
Okay.
So not for a specific time. But I think it's only like 20,
Okay. Okay.
which for someone getting started, that's
Right. Yeah.
you know. You cannot schedule idea pins on
Mm,
anything,
okay.
uh, not even on Pinterest.
Right.
Do have to be done live. What you can do for idea pins is batch create them and upload them so they're sitting in the drafts folder so that on the days and times that you want to post those, you can just go in and just walk through the process and then hit live.
Okay. That's awesome. Yeah, that's really good.
Mhm.
So, someone just getting started, never been on Pinterest before. We know we have to set up our profile. What's the best way then for us to get traction and actually starting to see a little bit of RTI? Like, do we need a lot of followers? Like, what are the things that are important for us to do?
The biggest things that are important are consistently pinning. One of the things you can do to increase your followers is the idea pins. So definitely making sure that you are creating the idea pins and then following similar accounts to where, other people who are following them are then going to be able to start seeing your content as well. So that's another really good thing in the beginning to do. Something else that you can do, it does cost money, but there's a plugin called Milo Tree, and it pops up on your website and says, hey, did you know we're on here? Follow us here. Other things that are free, tell everyone on every other channel that you have a Pinterest account. We forget about that. Put it in your email footers, put it on your website, tell people in your podcast, hey, we just started. Tell people on Instagram that you have an account. Make sure that you're telling everyone that way organically so they can come over and start following you. Because the more they start following you, the more Pinterest sees that your account is interesting and people find it interesting, the more you're going to start getting more followers. So it's kind of like a snowball effect that happens. Something else you can do that is new to Pinterest is apply to be on Pinterest TV.
What is Pinterest TV?
It's kind of like live, but very produced. So it's not like you do for Instagram or Facebook where you just hit a button and you go live. You have to apply for it. You have to tell them the topics you're going to do. It is a good idea to have an established account before you do this. But then they set everything up. You get 30 minutes to an hour, and you go on and you talk about what you do or whatever the topic is. So for product sellers, a lot of times you can go on and maybe you do makeup. You could do a makeup tutorial, and the whole time you're plugging the products that you're using, and people can go and purchase those. Well, I can tell you from what I've seen with other people who are doing this, your following grows very, very, very fast because people are watching those lives. And Pinterest pushes the lives out. So
yeah, every other platform.
they push it out. So yes, so that is a really, really good way to grow pretty quickly. But you would need to make sure that you have your account established, make sure that you have everything in place, because they're not going to pick someone who hasn't taken the time to do that, and to make sure that they're doing the things that they need to grow their account on their own. They want to make sure that it's someone who's, been verified and their website's verified and those types of things. But that is a really good way to do that.
Okay. When did they come out with this? My mind is so blown. Like, I feel like I have not seen this yet. And granted, I have been just using my scheduler and I haven't actually put up in a while, which was something else I was going to ask you about sharing content, but fill us in on this.
TV came out about a year ago.
What?
And
I just scared my dog when I did that. She looked up like,
what are you talking about, Mom? Yeah. It's been about a year ago. I'll show you on my screen if I can get it close enough.
Yeah.
But you see the little, I'm backwards, the little TV up there?
Yeah.
If you click that little TV, it's going to come up and show you.
Oh my gosh. Day of the Dead makeup tutorial. I am all about that.
All different things. Different creators. You can see past ones. So, I mean, yeah, it's pretty neat.
Okay, so I'm applying for that when we get off of here.
Yeah.
Heading over to see how I can make that happen.
Yes. That's another really good way to grow your account very, very, very quickly.
Yeah.
And also make some sales while you're at it.
Right. Yeah. I love that example of the makeup tutorial for our women who sell makeup.
And nails, same thing.
Yeah.
Beauty products, any type of skincare type stuff.
Yeah.
Any type of that stuff is really, really good for that. You just have to figure out the way to do it, which is something someone's searching for, and then your products tie into that.
Yeah.
So maybe a nightly skin routine or a morning skin routine, or different looks for your nails for the fall or the winter or Christmas or whatever.
Well, and
I recommend first is going to Pinterest TV and researching.
Yeah.
And looking for what's on there and what's been performing and those types of things. Watch some of them, because when you go to apply, they're going to ask you what your favorites are.
Oh, okay.
So, little heads up.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for that. And it ties in so much with what we teach as business coaches, with like building a brand and providing that value and service for people, and then your products naturally tie in. Like I really love that they're doing that, and I feel like an opportunity for everyone to use that.
Absolutely. Because how many people are willing to get on something like that? So I mean, if you're willing to do it, and they produce all of it. I mean, you have a call with them in advance. I mean, it's not a small thing. It's
a big to do.
It's a big to do. Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. Well, you just blew my mind, Tammie. It has been a really long time since anyone on this podcast. I've been like, what are you talking about? Okay. So let's talk just briefly, and then we'll wrap it up, because I don't like to make our podcast too long.
Yes.
But when you are looking at your boards and everything, does everything that you share need to be content that you created? Does Pinterest like you sharing other people's content? How does that work?
Pinterest does not require you to share anyone else's content any longer. They are fine with you only sharing your own content. If you have enough to fill boards, or if you don't mind it taking longer by not sharing other content, you're perfectly safe doing that. You're not going to get hit. You're not going to get dinged. You're not going to get pushed down in the algorithm, anything like that, for not sharing, whereas used to that was the case. However, in the beginning, it may be a good idea to share other content just to get more views and to get more impressions and to be able to get in front of other audiences. But make sure it's things that are complementary to you, or maybe even of the same brand. So if you're like an MLM, it's kind of muddy waters here. You don't necessarily want to share something from someone else who's in that same brand as you, but you might share the main company's content if they have a Pinterest account. because the main one is not going to be letting the people buy from there. They're going to be saying, find the person who is in your area or something like that. And 90% of the time, I would say, if they found that from your boards off of your profile, they're going to go back to your profile to then contact you to then purchase whatever that might be.
Yeah, I love that. And there's so many other things too. Like I was just thinking with the nail strips, because I know I have a lot of Color Street stylists who listen to this, um, which I know the company now makes their own nail polish remover, but before it could be like how to remove things. And like there's something always complimentary I feel like you can find, especially if you get creative.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. Any last minute, anything else Pinterest related that we should know that we haven't covered? Because I mean, you're already blowing my mind. So I feel like maybe
Well, one more to blow your mind. Creator rewards.
Oh, what are these?
You have to have 1,000 followers to apply,
Okay.
but Pinterest will pay you to create idea pins in certain niches. And each month they come out with a list of what they're looking for. And then you can go in and actually create those ideas around that. I would say you want to be very cautious about taking ones that are very far outside of your field of your business.
Yeah.
Just because it could then possibly confuse the algorithm as far as all of your other content.
Right.
But absolutely apply for that program and get paid to do that. You can also partner with other brands.
Oh.
A couple different ways now that you can actually use Pinterest to even get paid directly from them.
Wow. So with the creator rewards, is it like the Instagram Reels bonus where it's like how many people clicked on it, you get paid? Okay.
However many people interacted with it, saved it, there are some things that they measure
Right.
in order to determine. But yeah, but you do for that one have to have at least 1,000 followers.
Okay.
So,
Okay. 1,000 seems to be a sweet spot.
yeah. So once you hit that point, then you're golden. You're good.
Awesome. All right, Tammie. Well, tell us where we can connect with you, where people can work with you further. I'll link all this in the show notes, guys, and I'll also put our Pinterest handles, our usernames, so you guys can follow us on Pinterest. But where can we connect with you?
You can connect with me on Facebook. Just send me a message via Messenger. I'm under Tammie L. Jones on Facebook. I have the Instagram handle and all of that, but Facebook is probably the easiest to connect with me on. And then we can just kind of see, where you're at and what you have questions about and go from there. And then, I have free resources all the way up to, whatever. So
Awesome.
don't worry about, well, I don't have money right now. I'm just getting started. I have some free resources that can help you make sure that you get started the right way even.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Tammie. And guys, she really does mean that. Like, I feel like I'm pretty good about vetting all of my guests on the show where everyone really wants to serve, but I will definitely say hands down, Tammie has been one of the most like giving of her resources and her opinions and like her teachings. I don't know. I feel like I'm not saying the right word, but you guys know what I mean. She very freely gives without ever wanting anything in return. So don't hesitate reaching out to her.
Yes.
Like I said, giving her a follow in all the places because she's a great expert for that.
Thank you. Yeah, that's kind of my heart is to help others in any way possible.
Yeah.
And I fully believe that, the more you help, the more you get back. So
yeah, I 100% agree. And it shows with you. So thank you again so much for your time, guys. Make sure that you screenshot this episode if you are listening or watching live. Screenshot it, give us a tag, and we would love to share you out. Thanks again.
Thank you.